Topher is in the house. Welcome back to the County Line congregation. Topher, what is up, dog? We were just having a good conversation there in the front room prior to jumping on the air, and we was like, man, we might as well go ahead and get the tape rolling and let the people hear it. How you doing, brother?
Man, fantastic, man. And like you said, we almost missed out on the good stuff, you know. So we came to get on the mic, man, and I'm glad you reached out. Like you said, being both from Philly, man, it was past time that we got this done.
I had no idea until probably, I don't know, maybe, how long have you been living in Philadelphia?
2018.
Okay, so I didn't know you lived in Philadelphia until 2020. I saw you on Fox News after the election, and I guess you were talking to him from your house, doing an interview, and it said Philadelphia, Mississippi, and I was like, hold up. Who this man is?
Yeah, I'm not a native to Philly, man, but it feels like home.
But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Been seeing what you're doing on social media in the way of your Bible quizzes and being involved in the community in a multitude of different ways. What leads you to have that inspiration to go and pursue those interests and those, I guess, selfless acts?
Well, because I remember being that kid that needed someone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, growing up in Kilmichael, Mississippi, we didn't have many resources. And my mom was a single parent, you know, and she did the best she could, you know, God rest her soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn to be creative, you know, and it just kind of fostered that environment where you learn to DIY, do it yourself. And that type of environment showed me that there was no one coming to rescue me. Right. And a lot of people waiting on someone to come do something, but I was like, no one's coming. So I'm gonna have to, you know, pick up my boots, put on my cape and do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I developed that mindset, I started to develop the skills necessary to, you know, bring that to fruition. And I kept down that path into the position I'm in today. So when I'm going out helping people, I just want to remind them, like, look, no one's coming to save you. Only person came to save you was Jesus, and he came to save you with, you know, from eternal damnation. But on top of that, you know, if you ask him, he'll save you. But faith without works is dead. So it's going to require you to do some stuff. So you got to figure out what that is. So I'm just trying to, you know, tell them, like, you can do it. You can do it. And, yeah, I just remember saying myself, and I'm being that kid that was wanting that hero. But then I developed a slogan called Every City Needs a Hero. And that's because, you know, when you look at it from that standpoint, you know that anybody at any time can rise up anywhere. And you need that to happen. You can't be waiting for somebody coming from all the way in California to do something for you. You got to do it right here in the heart of Mississippi.
Yeah, it's a very inspiring message, and I'm encouraged to hear you speak it so eloquently. We don't have to go to whatever the hub is, whatever the city is for whatever the industry is that is a hub for that industry and that sect. We can do things right here, wherever, if it's in Mississippi, if it's in Kansas, if it's in Florida, you name the state, you name the country, for the most part, because the technology has become so much more affordable for the everyday American, and that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
You know, that gives more voices, more opportunity to speak out, speak back, whatever, however you want to phrase it, but it is very, very vital to, especially in America, the growth of our democracy.
Right. And that's one thing that's exponentially grown since, you know, I was a kid, was technology. I mean, what kids can do on their phone today is unbelievable when I went to school. I mean, people could literally record a whole entire song, get it mixed from their phone, and then get it uploaded to distributors all from their phone. It's like back then you had to buy computers, you had to buy mics, and I did all these things, right? That's why I tell people, you know, when I was in high school, going to the studio was unaffordable. So we was like, what can we do to kind of cut down the cost? So we started to save up money, do stuff ourselves. Was it great in the beginning? Absolutely not. I got some songs that I still kind of cringe at, but those cringe beginnings is what made the seasoned veteran that you see before you. So I'm thankful for those opportunities. I'm thankful for that drive that I had back then. And anybody listening, you know, if you are trying to get involved in things, this is the best time ever. Not only do you have tools readily available, you have knowledge everywhere, but on top of that, you got social media. Like social media platforms to share your content, to share your ideas, to share what you love to do. is a game changer for so many people. And what used to be you had to retire at a certain age because you age out of stuff is no longer a thing. There's no ageism when it comes to technology. So I see people from 6-year-old, 10-year-old making YouTube channels. Now I see people that's 80 and 90, maybe either rapping or they out there just making funny videos. So that's why I tell people it's like there's no excuse now unless you make one. It's gonna be tough, but it is very much more possible.
Very much more possible, and has, I'd say, since the pandemic, really exponentially the awareness and the how to, and especially social media, has increased, so much, and so many more people have caught on to the game or caught on to how the system is working and how it can be used for good and for bad. But it just seems like the engagement, the overall participation has increased. And then, in my mind, economically speaking, that probably has driven down the cost. Overall, if you're talking about, whether you're talking about technology or social media, they're making buku of money.
Yeah. The guy, I forget his name. I don't know if you know him, but the guy that never said anything, now he's like the most followed person on TikTok, and he's a millionaire at this point. But it's just I think he's from the UK. But
what's his story?
Well, he was just a guy it was a black guy, right? Young guy, and I think he got started by making fun of people being over complex on simple things. So they'll jump through hoops to try to show you how to drink a drink. And then he would just do it in the most simple motion, like this is already here. Why are you going? Why are you going a long route? And he wouldn't say anything. He would just do that and then stick his hands out like this, as if, here you go. Never said a word. That's all he did, and he's making money. So I tell people, man, you can make money without even saying anything. If that don't tell you the potential there is out here to earn a great living, to live by what you love to do, I don't know what can.
So how is money made via social media?
Yeah, so depending on what platform you go to, but typically they all got certain requirements, and that usually involves views, engagement, and followers, right? And so depending on where you're at, I know TikTok is, I think, 10,000 followers. I think I get 100,000 views in 30 days. And I forget what the other one is right now. I can't think of the top of my head. But it's usually three things. And then when you get those three things, you get a chance to tap into the creativity program or whatever program you want to dive into. YouTube, same thing, 4,000 watch minutes, 1,000 subscribers, and boom. Then Facebook is, I believe it's same thing, 10,000, 250 freaking returning viewers, and I forget the watch time minutes, but I think it's like 100-some thousand minutes. But yeah, so given that, I tell people all the time is once you get those requirements, you should really start pushing your content, but push it on platforms where it really pays you.
So where does the money come from once you meet these benchmark metrics? Then who's paying you money? These companies to attract more people to your page and more people to your following, so that your advertising space is higher in value?
Absolutely. And then when you really learn how to capitalize, then you can just take that same principle and go to the advertiser directly. So now you don't even have a middleman and you make more money in your pocket. So that's what eventually I'm trying to get to now. I've netted, millions and millions of followers across platforms. I got several awards and stuff like that. So I'm getting to the point where now I need to take it to the next level and start approaching people directly because of the influence and following I've been able to build. But yeah, if you want to make money from TikTok or any social media platforms, main thing is it's still got to be family friendly. Unfortunately, politics is just one of those things where people don't really care about. Even religion sometimes can get, advertisers tend to stay away from those things. But I've somehow...
Regardless of numbers?
Yeah, regardless of numbers. Depending on how you go with it. I've been able to... Well, yes, I'll say that. I've been able to somehow slip through the cracks, I guess. But with me and my going around quizzing people about the Bible, I guess it's not as confrontational as some other content could be. So I guess that's why they haven't flagged me for anything at all. But when I was doing my politics and I was really going after people, man, I was getting flagged all the time.
What is their fear in giving something like religion or politics the airtime, so to speak? Like, why do advertisers want to stay clear of that in your mind?
I just think if you're a company, some companies, right? I won't say all companies, but most companies want to toe the line. They want to be the end with whatever's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So if mutilating child genitals is the wave, they don't want to be seen as opposition to it. Right? They want to be the ones that are like, yeah, we know that's what we support. We're here for it. I'm just looking at them like, that's crazy. So if you say anything against that, then advertisers are going to get mad. And then also the social media companies are going to probably start flagging your content. And then that means now you're not getting the advertising revenue, which, they know that's what you're kind of on there for. But that's why it's smart to go ahead and start building your own platforms outside of that, And I could name like Officer Tatum, Anthony Brian Logan, some people, Candace Owens, Daily Wire, the whole creating your own platform. That way you can still speak, what's really on your heart. And people that really rock with you, because it's still going to have a lot of people that rock with you. Now you are in control of that, And I feel like when you got more of a central focus with your audience too, you actually end up making more money because it's easier. Now I'm not out here just throwing my advertisement at random people. I know the people that's watching me are intentional about what they're watching.
Absolutely. Do you think that podcasting or content creation in general will succumb to the overarching control advertising has on television now?
I can see it happening. I mean, but I will say this. When you get too big for it, it don't matter. Like, they was too big to cancel Yeezy. Yay. They was too big to cancel, Joe Rogan. They tried to cancel Joe Rogan.
They tried their damnedest.
They tried the hardest. I mean, people was pulling their music from Spotify and all this up and stuff. And
like Neil Young. It's terrible anyway. Go ahead and pull it.
I was like, I don't know what this man is. I was like, I don't think you're relevant enough to.
Hey, do you know that Leonard Skinner and Neil Young had beef?
No, I did not.
They were putting diss tracks out.
I wonder how that sounds.
Real talk.
I wish you had one right now. I can listen to it.
I'm pretty sure that Neil Young gets dissed in Sweet Home Alabama.
All right.
I think I'm about 99.8% sure that Leonard Skinner threw that diss at Neil Young on Sweet Home Alabama. Neil Young will remember. I forget how it goes. But okay. I know they called Neil out in there in Sweet Home Alabama.
All right.
And then Neil's got one, he's got a song called something Southern Man. I think it's got Southern Man in it, but that may be the name of the song. Mm-hmm. But I think that's shade at Leonard Skinner. And I think Leonard Skinner's Sweet Home Alabama was in rebuttal to Neil starting the shit in the first place.
So songs that we hold dear is just...
Hey, like out here throwing disses. White folks got them diss tracks too, cuz.
Oh, man. I might go back and listen to them back to back after this. That's pretty funny. Yeah. I never would have thought about that. But yeah, so I would say yes and no. But like I said, if you get too big, it don't matter what they do anyway.
Right.
And that's kind of like how Joe Rogan is. And that's what the point I want to get to, where it doesn't matter. They can say what they want. They can try to cancel, but they can't. When you become uncancelable, the only thing left to do is try to tarnish your image or try to get you locked up.
The only people that could really screw over Joe Rogan at this point would be Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I mean, if they really wanted to cancel Joe Rogan, and even then, you have to assume that if Apple Podcasts and Spotify shut Joe Rogan down, that YouTube would have shut him down way before they did.
Yeah, YouTube.
So he wouldn't have anywhere to turn if that were the case. Now, that's not going to happen, I don't think. I hope not, because Spotify seems to be very, very intent on reaching 1 billion users by whatever the date is that they've thrown out recently. Because they're I think they're at 500 million right now.
Appreciate them users. I got 500,000. Appreciate y'all. Listening.
So when did you start rapping? I saw in a post the other day that I think you were at the elementary school here in town, and you were with children that were of the age in which you started rapping. Uh-huh. What age was that?
10.
10 years old.
Yeah.
And so what is 10-year-old Topher inspired by to want to create his own rap lyrics? Who was 10-year-old Topher listening to?
People I probably shouldn't be listening to. I would say Eminem. probably was the main influence. And that's because my brother-in-law, so my sisters are much older than me. So my oldest sister that I lived with was 15 years older than me, and the other one was 10 years older than me. So I'm 10 and 20. So, they're grown. And I remember meeting my brother-in-law, and I remember getting the CDs. And one of the CDs I got was like Curtain Call, maybe, or Eminem Show. But I remember listening to some of the songs, and the way he talked about cleaning out my closet and his issues resonated with me. Because a lot of times when I was listening to like Ludacris, 50 Cent, and all those folks, they didn't really get personal, right? That was more general, like gang violence and everything else. But Eminem, to me, it took it to a point where, man, this man dissing his mama. We don't diss our mamas in the black community. I don't know if you know this, Lee. Like, that just, I don't care what you say. I don't care how bad your mama was. You weren't about to bag talk your mama. Mm-mm. So I knew, and when I heard this, I was like, it resonated with me because I did have some frustrations that I felt like I should be able to voice. And also to know that I'm not the only one that's, dissatisfied with direction and choices my mom made. My mom, for those who don't know, my mom battled with alcoholism for majority of my life until about, I was in the military. I was about 23 when she finally called me and told me that she had broken and never took another sip, which was about 8 years ago. And I remember just rejoicing because I used to always go. Matter of fact, when I went to church, the main thing I used to pray for was my mom to be free from that. Mm-hmm. Just because I saw what it did to her, and not knowing, as a kid, you don't get the whole picture. But as an adult, I can look back on and see what was the motivation and things like that. I remember one night she did have too much to drink, and she kind of just told me, some stuff I never knew. And she had previously had an abortion, and we talk about abortion being empowerment for women. No, it's not. Not only do you still go through your body goes through the function of having a baby, and you got those emotions going on, but knowing that you killed your child really weighs heavy. It's not something that people just have a rejoicement about, and my mom really regretted that decision. So a lot of us drinking came from that. Drinking came from having us out of wedlock, because my dad was married at the time, mm-hmm. and he's a famous blues guitar singer, Little Willie Farmer, Mississippi native. He's played with B.B. King and others, but he's got like the Howlin' Wolf type of blues playing style, mm-hmm. Muddy Waters, mm-hmm. if you think about some people. And but anyway, she had all these things that she kept bottled up inside, mm-hmm. and I kind of saw that, and going through that, it just made me realize, man, I want to express I just know she can do better. Mm-hmm. As a kid, I was like, man, Mom, you can do so much better. Why don't you do better? And I used to talk about it all the time, and to the point that I was like, I can't really shout at my mama, can't talk back to my mama. What can I do to still express those feelings? And music became like that scapegoat, that pathway for me to express myself. And I had a couple songs out there, that I created that has helped me along the way. Even with politics, right? Let's say if I get banned from speaking about supporting Trump on TikTok, right? I went to my music. I haven't got banned yet. Well, I got a song temporarily removed for about 2 weeks because of my distributor. But overall, there's a safe place where I can still express my feelings and concerns.
Yeah, I can imagine there are many children in Mississippi who have experienced similar circumstances as you. And I highlight that because it highlights a bigger issue, in that a couple of issues there. The access to quality mental health treatment in Mississippi is atrocious.
Yeah.
That's something that has to be improved over time. Addiction, whether it be alcoholism, drugs of whomever's choice, it's a circumstance in which children find themselves much too often in our state. And there are a multitude of different reasons for that. And we could be here all day long trying to dissect why those circumstances exist as frequently as they do. But the fact that you had an opportunity to find music, to be moved by music, and then that fill a void for you that you didn't, because it sounds to me like you were liberated once you were able to express yourself in a creative way, as opposed to just keeping it bottled up because you wanted to have respect for your mother. You wanted to show her that you cared about her and you understood, or you're trying to understand her, but at the same time you had some frustration that you needed to get out of your system.
Right.
And that happens. I think that's the biggest reason why we have so many talented artists that come from Mississippi, because of so much struggle. There's beauty in the struggle.
Right.
And very strong creative people come out of struggle and impoverished situations. So it's like a blessing and a curse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree to that. And, that's the reason why I feel like I resonate with a lot of the youth, is because when I do tell this story, they hear that. They hear that, oh, man, he went through what I went through. And that's why I don't shy away from that discussion. It's like, man, I did not have a great upbringing. You look at my life now and you look what I've been through. It's, it's just not the same. And that's not to brag about anything, but if I do have to brag, it'd be about, the Lord. Because I look back on my life and everything I've been able to overcome and get through, it's been because I've been obedient to him. And that struggle, man, Mississippi has had a lot of it, historically and even now, we still going through some stuff, and we don't like change down here. It's the South, man. We just like our traditions. We like what's going on, and trying to shake away that stuff, man. It's kind of like been my mission. It's like, sure, we can. I'm not saying we have to, completely get rid of everything, but some stuff that we need to improve. All progress ain't bad progress, Some stuff, imagine if we still was on, wagons. It's not a great thing. I'm pretty sure your F-150 around with the massage seats is a lot better than a wagon.
No doubt.
So I think we shouldn't be so adamant about it. We should, approach it with an open mind and open heart, and really listen. Really listen to the youth that's coming up, because man, I know they're hurting. Especially now with times being how it is, inflation, everything going on, the dollar not being what it used to be. I mean, you just can't get much out of it. We went from, getting, some water out of a rag to now it was the rag. So we used to, be able to get some, and now we only have the rag to get the water with. So it's very tough, but it's possible, and if we listen and we start making those decisions and we think about others as we go out here, we can make some great things happen.
Yeah, we definitely have many areas that we can improve in. Why do you think Mississippians in particular are so resistant to change of any kind?
Because my opinion is, when you have a job security tied to that insecurity, then people are going to resist. What I mean by that is, if I tell you, even for church, right? Hospitals, for example, go with that. Reason why they don't want to heal you is because if they heal you, you're no longer a patient. If you're no longer a patient, they're no longer making money off you. Why would they want to heal you when they can just temporarily give you a fix, and then boom, you come back and they can keep that money going? I feel like it's the same way with some of our policies, with some of the stuff that we see today in tradition. It's like they want you to keep coming back. They don't really want you whole, but they want you feeling like you whole and thinking you whole, so that you always come back. And when your job is based on somebody's need for that, you're going to do everything in your power to make sure they need you. And once I realized that you shouldn't need anything, I was able to just get everything I wanted anyway. It's like, the only thing I need is God, and everything I want will be added to me.
So are you referencing the relationship between the citizens and politicians?
Or just, politicians, or just any like, it could be a pastor in a church.
So you're saying that dynamic exists at the state level in Mississippi politics?
Politics, state level, local level.
So you think a few people are in control in each town or whatever, and they've got a stranglehold on that power. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Because, think about why we haven't got too many restaurants here in Philadelphia.
Correct.
It's because we don't have the people. No, we got people. But it's the small businesses that's saying, like, if that comes in, that competition comes in, then we're going to lose out. Which I don't believe that. I think, in the free market.
I think it helps everybody, and everybody flourishes. If we've got 5 Mexican restaurants, well, there's obviously the demand there for a lot of restaurants. Yeah. So, you go by these Mexican restaurants and they're full every day. Like, people are going out to eat. We've got the demand.
Right.
And so you were saying that that could be a symptom of what? Like small businesses being resistant to
Yeah, just resistant
change.
to change because they're afraid of that competition. But the
Yeah.
thing is, in free market capitalism, which I love, is, as long as your product is great, it doesn't matter who's around you, people are still gonna come visit you. So they don't want to improve on what they offer because then they cost time, money, dedication. They just want to continue to offer the same stuff and then still reap the benefit. So the best way to do that is to prevent anything better from coming around. And that's what I see a lot of times too. And I'm like, man, we gotta get out that mindset. If we really want to grow, and like I said, it's for the betterment of everybody, not just you. I love competition. I love to. I want to say I don't compare myself to other people, but it's a healthy competition. And when I'm trying to compete, like having a target base when you're doing something or a target goal, at least allows you to kind of see, okay, what are they doing that I'm not doing, and why are they growing faster? Can I do something to improve? More of a tool to improve yourself, not a tool to, I guess, be to down yourself. I don't really look down on others. It's crazy that so many people that I've helped, throughout my life, or people that have been around me, a lot of those people are not around me anymore. And I just think it's because I was able to grow without them. People like, what I'm saying? People, even relationship, right? Relational people still, they don't like you changing either. And I think money, when people say money changes people, I say, no, I think money changes the people around you. Because then they start acting funny. It's like Topher, when Topher was broke and Topher was doing this, everybody was cool. Then when Topher get out here and start expressing himself and he can kind of do what he wants, now you got a problem with Topher. But nothing has changed. I have friends that come back, maybe months later, years later, like, man, I don't know why I was mad at you, man. I'm sorry. Because I never did anything to him personally.
Jealousy.
Yeah, it's,
That's and that's hard for someone to admit, that they're jealous of someone. I've been guilty of it. I'm still guilty of it. But I have to tell myself, like, Lee, chill out, bro. Just be thankful for what you got, and be thankful. If you think they're succeeding, be thankful for them succeeding. Don't have no animosity towards nobody because they really doing, or where you at doing what you want to do, or they're where you want to be or would like to be. Just focus on you, Lee. That's what I had to tell myself, to suppress that, because we all have that natural inclination to aspire to be successful. At least most of us do.
Right.
And then when you see somebody achieving or setting the benchmark that you want to ultimately meet, you're going to feel some type of way if you got any competitive spirit inside of you. At least that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's why the Bible says one of the 10 commandments, do not covet. So it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
It's very important, and it's just human nature, man. But the problem is, because of social media, we've developed a mindset of everything we see a person post to do is all they do.
Yeah.
And we don't see the time they put in outside of what we see on social media. We don't see the hours they spent in the studio, in the basement. We don't see how much time they spent studying and learning a craft, or how many mistakes they see. That's what we don't see. We only see what's presented, and then we take that and just assume, I've been putting in work and I know this, or why they getting ahead. It's like, you just don't know. We don't know the conversation they're having off camera, the people they're going out to visit, how many miles they travel. We just don't know. And so I don't value people like that. I'm thankful for the people that flock to me, but I always tell people, man, I'm human. Don't come over here thinking that I'm some perfect guy, or I'm some dude that's just not ever gonna make any mistakes. I make plenty of mistakes. Matter of fact, this will allow me to make great decisions, because I made bad decisions. It's like, yeah, that didn't work out. I'm not gonna do that no more.
Yeah, there's also an element in that type of scenario when someone levels up and they're on another level and they're looking down at the people that they've been around on the lower level. Those people, crabs in a bucket. I mean, there's a reason there's a reason a person makes it to a certain level, right? Luck is at play, but that person has a certain type of makeup. That person has a certain mentality. That person has a certain work ethic that has contributed to them being able to go to that next level. Well, then a smart person in my mind says, okay, well, now let me surround myself with people on the next level.
Right.
So that you know how to get to the next level. And the people still down on the first or second level, they just don't understand. And I think there's a miscommunication there. There's just a wall there that in most cases can't be broken, plus jealousy, which I mean, I guess what I'm explaining pretty much is jealousy. But I think there's a lot of that at play too. They're just different makeup. People are made up differently. Some people can understand what's going on. Some people not so much.
I will say the higher I've gone, you know, some of the people I met, like Andrew Fasella, the First Forum, the owner of First Forum, and others up there, they are, you know, uber millionaires, just really killing the game.
Yeah.
Really successful. They're some of the nicest people I ever met in my life. I mean, from a complete stranger, just going up talking to them, they enjoy what I do and just the conversation. They never treated me less than. They didn't. When they looked in my eyes, it was I was a master of what I did and they was a master of what they did, and that's just where it was. It wasn't about how much each other had. It was just like, I respect, you know, for where you at. And I noticed that more people hate up than they hate down. You know, and I get it. Like I said, I kind of used to have that mentality when I was younger, but I'm glad that I got out of that mentality. And I said, because I don't know if you remember an artist by the name of Pale, but Hurricane Katrina brought him to Mississippi, and then we went to Mississippi State together around about 2010, and we ended up doing. We didn't do music together, but we was like together, if that makes sense. Running together, we did shows together. He would perform, I perform, whatever. And I ended up going to the military around 2011, and he continued to do music. I left, and I remember following up with him about 3-4 years later, and seeing that he was. Red Bull was doing music for him. He was getting all kind of crazy sponsorship. I'm like, I almost got mad at his success, but then I thought about it. I was like, because it really dawned on me. It's like, man, I was doing shows with him. Why he get this opportunity? Yada yada yada. I said, because he was consistent. I said, I went to the military. I wasn't doing music no more. I wasn't doing nothing. I said, he never stopped. I'm like, so the opportunity didn't come because he was more talented. Because I was like, man, we the same level. Like, we was stage, I was good. And then it was because I wasn't consistent, because I stopped. And I said, I can no longer stop. I said, from that day forward, I realized, I said, I got to keep going. And the more consistent I've been, the more opportunities I've had to be exposed to stuff and people and opportunities. And that's what people got to realize. And consistency isn't being perfect all the time. It's just not quitting. You know, it's, you can be 10% one day, maybe 5%. Then the next day you're 100%. Who knows? But that's what consistency is, that no matter where I'm at, I'm going to put some type of effort into what I'm doing and not stopping. And the more consistent I've been, my life has just been exponentially better.
Yeah, you may go in the gym one day and you just not have it. Your legs ain't there. You know, you didn't eat what you needed to eat to give yourself the energy, but you got through the doors.
Right.
And that's really, you know, obviously you want to go in and give your 110, you know, when you're trying to be consistent, you want to be as efficient and all that as you can be on a frequent enough basis. But yeah, if you just getting off the couch and going walking down the street, if your goal is to exercise every day, it doesn't have to be 500 pounds, 15 reps, 10 sets every single day.
Yeah, man, I don't need to work out with you, Lee. If you're talking about that.
somebody sent me a workout regimen yesterday, and they were like, because I was telling them, I was like, Monday's leg day, let's go ahead and get it out of the way. And they sent me a leg workout that someone had sent them. And it was something like 7 sets of 10 on back squats. And then like all the way down, it was some crazy number like that with some awful workout, some exercise beside it. And I was like, the only way I would do that leg workout, and I probably wouldn't even do it then, is if it was with air, on air. Like so many reps, so many sets.
I used to be crazy like that. I used to be, consider myself trying to be, you know, I won't say trying to be a bodybuilder, not a pro one at all, but I definitely wanted to be a physique, get into men's physique, that type of stuff. So I used to be crazy in the gym doing reps like that. High reps, heavyweight on some days. You got your light day, you got your, so light day you have low reps, and then your heavy, no, light days you got high reps, heavy days you got your low reps. But I used to be in there and getting it. I was watching my food and everything else. And, that's kind of why I still got my build today. But I that wasn't sustainable, And
You ain't still in the gym?
No, man. I've been, matter of fact, I just lost, I haven't been telling people, showing people, but people around me that see me, they can see it. But I lost 45 pounds in the last 4 months. And that's just because, I got, not being in the gym and not worrying about what I was eating and stuff like that. And I saw an acronym today that for diet, it meant, did I eat that? And that's kind of how I look back and say, man, I was just eating whatever. And I realized, we were talking about how I was raised. And some people may go through this and experience this and never understood. But it was more of a subconscious thing to eat everything on my plate, regardless of portion size. And that was because it came from a poverty mindset. Because you never knew what you're going to eat the next day. So whenever you got something, you ate all of it, regardless. I was like, man, I ain't been like that in years. And I remember sitting on my couch about 2 months ago thinking about that. I was like, why am I just eating these portions? Because I remember I used to pay, I go to Porterhouse and I get the, get the $40 ribeye or whatever. And I'm like, man, I pay $40 for the ribeye. I'm finna eat every ounce. And then I was like, that makes no sense. If I'm full, I'm full. Whether it costs $40 or $5. Like, I need to know that it's okay. I'm not poor anymore. This is not gonna, it's spent. I'm not gonna get it back. They're not gonna get my money. You know what I'm saying? So once I learned to just break that poverty mindset, I've been able to control my portions a whole lot better. And I just eat till I feel like I'm good and I'm good, and it's just been a game changer. So people out there struggling with that, sometimes it's tied to something that you went through as a kid.
So you just solely changed your diet, and that you attribute that to your weight loss, or did you get in the gym any?
Oh no, I've been last month and a half. I would say about maybe a month and a half. I started back walking a lot because I was up there, so I wasn't trying to jog or do nothing too heavy.
Right,
get that weight off your joints before you start going back into it hard. I'll probably get back in the gym here soon, but I'm gonna continue to let this work me down. And also when you're trying to slim up, I ain't trying to do all that because I want to lose the fat. I don't want to just add muscles quite yet. But anyway,
you doing a full strip down, huh?
yeah, right now. And like I said, I've had the 8% body fat at 195. Like I've been that beast, but I don't want to get back to it quite. I just want to get back to maybe 210, 215, and just kind of a solid guy, just going around and, I ain't got to have the rock hard abs, but it's going to be flat, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication. And I got too many injuries from the military to be focused on doing that quite like that.
Has it improved your mental acuity?
Absolutely. I always tell people, if you look good, you feel good. And if you don't look good, you ain't gonna feel good. I know some people say, you still fake it till you make it, but sometimes you can't shake it. And one of the things I've done is, like I said, I gotta make a change. I gotta make a decision. I know I can do better, so I gotta do better. And sometimes, when you get kids, I shout out to Post Malone. One of the reasons why he ended up losing a lot of weight recently was, because he said, I gotta be around for my kids. Like, kids will do that to you. Kids for men, like, I don't know, how women are, but when men get like kids and there's something else they got to protect, some just kicks in and tells us like, I can't protect them if I'm not, in shape, if I'm not doing this, if I'm not healthy enough to even get up and down stairs or react quick enough. So, and you won't stay there too long if you living up to that expectation. So I got busy, and we went over to the weight clinic, and I've been working with I don't know if you ever heard of the Wegovy shot. But it's a shot that helps with appetite. Well, it's not an appetite suppressant, more so it helps you feel full longer. So it helped me until I realized the mental pressure I had on my portion size. It allowed me to control it until I got to the point now that consciously I can be like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna eat that, or I'm not gonna do this. So I really haven't been snacking as much as I used to. Keeping, I still drink soda. I don't want people to think like I just got rid of soda. No, I didn't. I still drink my soda maybe a 24 ounce in a day. That's it. But most of it's gonna be water and other stuff that's better for your body. But yeah,
what kind of soda you be drinking on?
I don't do no Coke, man. They say when you go Coke, you go woke. So I've been doing Pepsi. Pepsi products, usually Mountain Dew, Pepsi, and that's about it.
Coke makes you woke. Is that what I'm hearing? I've been drinking Diet Coke, so I ain't all the way woke.
Well, there you go. Well,
I'm halfway there.
Well, you remember they had that. What was that going back? You couldn't be white if you drink Coke or something. It was something Coke had.
I'll tell you one thing I have noticed coming up in a predominantly black community. Not a whole lot of black folks drink dark soft drinks.
No, we don't really. I think it's more of Sprites and Mountain Dews and. Man, you throw in some Fanta, see you really talking to us now. Get that orange soda, grape soda.
Get that cotton candy.
Yeah,
that cotton candy be hidden.
Lemonade.
Yes, sir.
Now we do drink our sweet tea. But that's not a soda. But that's about, we would drink our sweet tea.
That's true.
But yeah, we don't really, I think the only time you may see a Coke or something like that if we drinking bourbon. But I think I got that from like a white guy anyway. I think most people do like Henny and lemonades.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of black people that just drink like Jim Beam.
No.
Not saying they're not out there. Just saying, generally speaking, and when people, speaking of woke, get upset about certain racial stereotypes that are used, like most commonsensical people understand that a stereotype exists for a reason. Mm-hmm. It's a generalization. But most people understand that not all people of that makeup are going to exhibit those behaviors.
Right.
But the woke takes it to a whole nother level to where you can't even say the stereotype anymore. Like it's you'll get banned or shut up if you utilize that stereotypical phrase.
That reminded me of Dave Chappelle when he was telling a joke. I don't know if you remember. He was talking about he came down to the South and they asked him what he wanted. He said, I ain't put in my order. He said, I already know you want the chicken. He's like, how did you know?
What's the Dave Chappelle when he is a black blind Klansman?
Oh man, yeah. What's his name? Bigsby.
Clayton Bigsby.
Yeah.
I won't dare to repeat some of the things that Dave Chappelle said, but if you've never seen Dave Chappelle on Chappelle's show, Clayton Bigsby, stop the podcast right now, go watch it, then resume, because it is worth it.
Shout out to my man Dave Chappelle, man. One of my favorite comedians, for sure.
He's the best of all time.
That man's goated.
He's the best of all time. And the Rick James, bitch. That's a good one, too.
That was a good one. Man. What did he say? F your couch. Man, F your couch. That's tougher than, man. And his brother, man, not his brother, but shout out to Charlie Murphy, man. When Charlie Murphy get on there and tell them stories, man, that used to be some of the funniest stuff.
I like listening to the gentleman who was also a part of the Chappelle show and very close to Dave. He goes on Joe Rogan quite a bit.
Okay.
Donnell Rawlings.
Oh, yeah.
I love listening to that dude when he's on Joe Rogan. He is hilarious. Somebody else who's hilarious is Earthquake.
I don't know.
He's a black dude. I wasn't aware of him until he was on Joe Rogan either. But apparently Earthquake spent like some years in Atlanta, the Atlanta comedy scene, and he ran his own comedy club and performed there as well. But I followed Earthquake on social media, and it's just too much. Like he'd be posting the most random shit, and it's like 50,000 posts a day.
Oh yeah,
it's funny, and he has a lot of followers, but he was just taking up too much of my timeline.
You're a world star, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I used to always think why people did that too. Why would celebrities go to the household just posting stuff? I realized it's not even them posting it. A lot of times they got people that allow, because if you get monetized, right, on Facebook, I don't know if you remember seeing these videos on Facebook where it'd be like 10 crazy things and it has like Lil Wayne reacts or something like that. It ain't Lil Wayne reacting. It's just they took some clips of Lil Wayne doing something and they just put these videos together and put his face on it, and then they post to his page, and then everybody watches it. They get money from it. Once again, just another way to monetize that people don't think about. And I was like, man, this is genius. But
that's interesting how a lot of celebrities, I would imagine, probably once they get to a certain point, they hire it out. Mm-hmm. Just do what you got to do, put stuff on there to Get us more followers.
get us money,
Get us more money.
That's what it boils down to. So like I said, as a person that's been a full-time content creator, I know full well how it works. I used to wonder why Country Wayne did 3-minute videos all the time. And you'll see it'd be like 3 minutes 1 second, 3 minutes 2 seconds. Like it's never like 2 minutes. And that's because on Facebook you get prioritization if it's a 3-minute video, and you get better early advertisement when it's 3 minutes. Versus if it's not 3 minutes, you get at the end. So if you get it in the beginning at the 1 minute mark, then you get more eyes on the advertisement, you make more money. So I was like, oh, so when you start figuring stuff out, it's like, this is why to do this. It's all strategy. And it's just one of the things you got to learn when you're out here making content, And so if you need anybody, guys, like I said, I might be starting a master class, and I will start doing social media consultation for those that want to know. But like I said, I've been doing this and making money and making 6 figures from social media, now. So
how did you get into that world?
Kind of had to. As an artist, the only way to get your music out is, especially independent, right? I'm an independent hip hop artist. Some people that don't know about who I am, I got a #1 Billboard for my song "The Patriot," and that's in hip hop, and that was in all the hip hop songs that week in the country. I've got a #6 Billboard Black, #7. I got a #5 in rock and hard rock. That was really cool. Shout out to my boy Tommy Vexed, real great guy. I don't know if you know who he was, but the former lead singer of Bad Wolves. Bad Wolves got the song "Zombies." They did the cover. So former lead singer because they don't like free thinking black men, but we did the song together, and we're gonna do some more collaborations coming up. I'm glad that he's back on the road. But yeah, just learning how to market my own music, I had to learn the tools available. And the cheapest tool to market your music is social media. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. You pay with your time and, the efforts you put into it. But everything you do pretty much is outside of the social media. So I had to learn how to use all that stuff. And it kind of became a second nature thing just down the line. Like I didn't set out to be a social media expert. I set out to get my music marketed and make a living off that. And then all this was just part of the path, the journey.
What's the saying? Necessity's the mother of innovation.
Yeah. That's it.
So, how long into it did you start saying to yourself, "All right, I'm seeing some things that I'm doing that are working. That are getting me a little more pop than everybody else that's on social media."
I would say, music-wise, my first video to go viral, I think, was a Trump 2020 song. And it wasn't like I was trying to go viral, more so I was just making a rap. It was a trend that Charlie Puth put together on TikTok around, I want to say December 1920 or January 2020. I forgot when he did it. But it was around that time, and he created a beat, and he just it was called Write the Lyrics. So the beat would play, and someone would duet the video, and they'd just write the lyrics, and you would just sing along to the beat in your head. So I said, man, it was just a bunch of singers. I said, no one's doing rapping. So I said, let me just do one for rappers. And I did it. Video went viral. I was like, what the world? It went viral like fast. I think I had 1 million views in like an hour. It was something crazy. And I was like, man, I've never went viral like that. And I wasn't sure what it was, but I had people that was on the opposite side of the aisle just say, like, even though it's about Trump and I hate Trump, I like that song. So it's like, okay, cool. So I got something that, regardless of aisles, that this is just talent. This is something that supersedes all that. So that told me I had a lot to work with. So then I started kind of like going down and trying to create more videos where I'm just rapping and then write the lyrics on there. Lyrics help a lot if you're wondering with your videos, because a lot of people forget that there's a large portion of people who can't really see that well and can't hear that well. So if you can't really hear that well, then you gotta go be looking for something that's gonna tell you what people are saying so you can follow along. So that's why it's great. And then for the people that can't see well, you wanna make sure your audio is clear so they can hear well. Right? And it just goes back full circle. So that's why I always make sure that I got captions on my videos. I make sure I record with a high quality mic. Mics are cheap. You can get it for your iPhone, whatever. They're like $90 on a low end, and you can get a high quality one. So there's no excuse to make sure you got some high quality stuff. And the distance on the things is amazing. I think I could be like 100 feet away from an iPhone and still pick up.
Wow.
So get you a mic, and when I started combining those things, I started to notice a significance or more consistent virality from my videos than it was at the one and done's. But yeah, that was kind of my first. That was my first one, and then my next one that kind of went viral was the one about Terry Crews. I did a song called "I Feel Like Terry Crews," and Terry Crews actually ended up using that song in a video he made doing a beef he was having with somebody else. It was crazy, and he just come on and he walked up. I feel like Terry Crews, and he was just doing it. And I will say this: shout out to my man Terry. We were friends on social media, and when I come
Shout out Terry. Bag, Terry.
Put it in reverse, Terry.
Bag, Terry. What you doing, Terry?
Damon, I'm a man. Man, Friday is stupid. But anyway, he was the first person I know that I was like, not only did he use it, but he tagged me in the video. You know how hard it is for people to tag you in content that is not theirs, but they used it. And, you know, for him being A-list celebrity and everything he got going on, he decided to do the due diligence and tag me in it. And I was amazed. To this day, I'm thankful for it. And it showed me too that I do have the appeal to have somebody of that stature appreciate what I do and give me that cosign. But it's I've just been confident going down the line and just figuring out ways that I can improve since then.
It worries me that people will end up benefiting from just being able to figure out the algorithm or the path to virality as opposed to their work really being credible. Not saying that all people aren't credible, but it's almost as if at this point, not everybody, not everything, nothing is 100% of the time. But obviously, if you learn these tools that you yourself have obviously caught on to, then your likelihood of going viral and getting more eyes and more ears is much more likely than someone who is not in tune with how these things, how social media works, how the algorithms are built, or how they're programmed, and the different nuances of them. And that gives you a huge advantage.
Of course. But it also gives me the advantage of not having to do things to go viral, right? If you can almost predict the video because of the algorithm, because you understand the tools, you're no longer out here subject to just doing something insanely against your character or your brand just to get out there in front of millions of eyes. So that's why I encourage people now, people listening, independent artists, like I'm showing you the way. I can tell you how to get the billboards independently. I can show you how to do these things independently, because the label's going to want you to do some stuff that are uncomfortable, that more than likely is going to go against your principles. And I hear it all the time. This is not something I'm making up, that we see it. We see the satanic and Satanism that's coming through the lyrics, the videos, and the visuals. And these are not people that thought that way or behaved that way. But if someone's writing a check and cutting a check and controlling you, you're going to do what they tell you to do, right?
Memphis. They making a killing off of that shit.
Making a
killing off of killing.
It's crazy. But why would you want to be in the business of profit for that? That's my thing. Like, that's one of the things why I stayed independent, because I didn't want to be forced to do something I really just couldn't sleep well with at night.
I wonder about that same component, but I think, like you mentioned earlier, free market capitalism. If there's a market there for it within reason, I mean, yes, can gangster rap music, especially nowadays, be viewed as a detriment to society, and should it be held responsible or liable for acts carried out by people those listening to it? I do not believe so. That is art for people to consume, and as a society, we should say, okay, Boosie Badass is telling a story here. He's not implicating anybody in a crime. He's not telling me to go commit a crime. It's art. Let's consume it and keep those two things separate. But I think a lot of people look at hip-hop and just automatically say that it's like with video games, that it's can be attributed to mass killings or violence and things of that nature. And I think it does play a role. I think NBA YoungBoy definitely has probably influenced some child to get the chopper and the Draco and go sliding.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the majority of his fans.
No, you're always going to have those outliers. And the same reason, my argument for that is, just like gospel music doesn't get many people saved, as we think. A lot of times people are saved, then come to gospel. So same thing with the hip hop. Yeah, hip hop is not gonna convince most people from going out committing crimes.
Very good point.
So we shouldn't be holding hip hop to a certain standard, and we just ignore everything else when it comes to movies and books and etc. Right? But I will say that's why I make the positive music I make, because I know the potential influence that it could have on somebody, and if they are going to be influenced, I want them to be influenced in a positive direction. And also just to remind people there's a time and place for everything. Because I'm pretty sure if I made a whole rap album literally talking about the Bible, it'd probably be rated E, not E, but was it rated R?
Rated R.
It'd be rated R. No, explicit. Because think about it, man. There's some very explicit stuff go down in the Bible. Some beheadings, some sacrifices, people slaughtered, by the thousands that we don't talk about most of the time when we talk about the Bible, but it's in there. Imagine making a video game about the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Especially my favorite story is about Elisha, because he was a bald man. He was going up to the hill, and a group of young men came out, and they was calling him bald, and they was making fun of him. And then he cursed them in the name of God, and bears came out and mauled them. I don't know how many it was in total, but it said 42 were killed. By
42 bears?
No, 42 young men were killed from the 2 bears.
Oh, goodness.
And all they said was to call this man bald. So imagine that being in a video game. Would that be rated M for mature, or would that be rated E for everyone?
That would be definitely mature.
So that's why I'm saying we got to be careful with blaming and labeling stuff just because of the violence in its lyrics, because like I said, the Bible could take a hit from that too. But most importantly, if we can install the principles and the morals that they need to live by, then they'll know where to place those things.
Right.
And that's what we got to focus on.
So now you don't have to so much think about how your content's going to be received as much as that you're following the protocol that you've identified to ensure you hit a certain amount of numbers consistently. So it's less about, hey, let me go jump off of this building and do something cool so people, share my post or video or whatever. And it's more about just, I guess, posting same time of day, maybe the high quality audio, video. What are some other tools for people out there?
I would say, besides the high quality audio and video, one of the first things I did was bought my iPhone 14 Pro Max. First thing.
All the way.
Cinematic camera on that is no other phone is beating that. Sorry, Android. I still use it most of the day, but then that iPhone cinematic is crazy. Then on top of that, like I said, I bought me a mic that was, fairly cheap, and I got that, and it's been great. And then on top of that, picking well-lit places. This is another thing. Lighting is good. So that's why grocery stores are really great, because they tend to have very bright lighting in the area. So you don't have to really worry about it being dark or something like that. On top of that, make sure that you got the captions going, because the captions, like I said, a lot of people don't understand, because you got to think about if you're trying to reach a global market, you don't just have Americans and Southerners with our Southern accents listen to us. And you may be talking slang that they don't understand. And that can be for somebody from Mexico or anything like that that's learning English but don't quite get it. But they can kind of follow along if you put the captions up there. So you got to think globally when you're making this content. And a lot of times, if you make it more about, give them something that's going to make them come back. One thing about my Bible quiz I really love is not that I'm in it, but the fact that they kind of get to see a different person and a different experience every time they come back and watch my videos, right? So it's not like it's the same thing over and over again. It's like, man, they get a whole new experience. They get a whole new interaction. They get a whole new location sometimes, So that's why I try to be consistent. I try to do a lot of stuff, and I really go out and be quizzing people. Now, for people wondering, no, all the videos I post are not all the videos are done. I just not. I've had plenty audio issues, video issues, stuff that just go wrong. Some stuff I don't post is because people get super emotional in it, and I'm not there to make it more about that. I'm just there to really, I want to highlight people at their best. I've avoided people for certain stuff. I've been selective about the people I speak to, not for content purposes, but I don't want the message to be lost. Right. And there are some very voluptuous women that I sometimes be like, man, I wish I can go up and talk to them. But I guarantee you, if I get them on this camera, all the comments in that section is going to be about because men, right? That's what we do. So I've avoided these women, and I've always debated, because Todd tell you, I'm like, man, I really want to get her because she look like she would need the blessing, but I just know this is gonna go wrong. So I tend to avoid those people. But I've been praying about it. Like I don't want God is for everybody, and I don't want to not exclude people just because God has blessed them in certain areas that others are not blessed in. So I've been praying about it, and I think I'll come around and do stuff. And I can't really control what everybody does, but I do try to minimize, when it does happen. But yeah, you stay consistent. Look at your analytics. That's just the thing about tools. It tells you when. It's like, hey, most of your people are on from 5 to 9. I ain't posting around then. Don't post at 12 o'clock. People at work.
Right.
It tells you the age group so you can keep it relevant, so it don't be talking about old stuff in movies that most of these people have no idea. So now you know your target audience. It gives you the information, but it's up to you to use the information to your advantage.
Have you always been extremely devout in your faith?
No. I would say growing up, traditionally, I went to church. I was just like everybody else. If you would ask me these questions at 16, 17, I'd probably be like, huh? I was like, Jesus rose, and this is all I know, I grew up in Lizard Spring Baptist, Missionary Baptist Church down on Avastage Road in Kilmichael, Mississippi, and the pastor just was the typical Baptist preacher that was just there. It was great to congregate every Sunday, but it was milk. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely a person that's eating steak in my walk with Jesus now, my spiritual food, but it was definitely milk then. Great for a certain amount of time, but when you get into the real world, you can't always be a baby Christian because you're going to be facing some adult problems, and baby Christians can't deal with that. So
what would your definition as a baby Christian be?
Someone's new to the faith. You're new to the faith, and you just got involved, and you can be very zealous at that stage. You're super excited, but if you don't watch out, because you have that new spark in Satan, that's the perfect time for him to get you, because you're new and he's sending everything out to you, and you get frustrated, and you just expect your whole life to change, not knowing that's not how God works. Now he's giving you the power to change life, but it's not an instant thing. Everything's a journey. Then on top of that, baby Christian are still people that just go to church, here to work. Because I always say this, God is enough, Sunday isn't. So if you're only going to church on Sunday, then you're not going to grow that much. I mean, it's just like when we go to the gym and working out. If I see a guy that goes to the gym 2 hours on a Saturday versus a guy that's in there 1 hour every day, it's going to be a big difference, right? You're going to say, okay, that man over there, just from visually looking at him and how he carries himself, that's a veteran. That's a guy that's really in it. This guy over here is just a casual gym goer. It is. So that would be a person that you probably wouldn't want to ask advice from. Probably a person that you wouldn't think that they had to overcome a lot of ordeals, because the more consistent you are, the more you had to overcome things that's trying to keep you from being consistent. So now you're going to talk to the person. How was you able to do this, man? I see you got kids. I see you got this going on. I see you switch jobs. Y'all in a new place. How were you able to keep going and still do what you do? And then now they got a story to tell. That's just a general notion in life. So when I tell people, like, you got to get stronger. You got to work out that spiritual man just like you work out that physical man. And the spiritual man is the only one that's really going to bring in the blessings that you think you should have.
So that environment in the church from your childhood did not cultivate the breeding ground for a adult Christian?
No, not at all.
Just going through the motions.
Yeah,
a formality to be there at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning or whatever the time was.
That was fine. If nobody could, we wasn't trying to really go out and teach, whatever type thing. It was just there. It's great to be there. I'm not knocking that, because everyone, just like babies, when babies come into the world, they need that time to grow. So I'm not knocking that, but what I'm saying is we can't stay there. So
what does an environment look like from a church standpoint that does breed those adult Christians?
Oh man, yeah, straight teaching. A lot of people get caught up in emotional stuff. There's nothing wrong with music. There's nothing wrong with shouting. But if that's the only reason you're there, then it's a problem. You should be able, if you're teaching and you're learning and you're there to get through a situation, we need to be referring back to the scripture. We need to be sticking to the scripture. Stories are nice, but they're not scripture. They're not biblical principles that you can take with you. It's just like if you went to school and all they did was let you play at recess, but you went to school, would you think you learned anything?
Nope.
Probably not.
Be a good athlete.
You would be a good athlete. A lot of pick 'em up, bust 'em back then.
That's what happened to us. They just threw us to the playground. That's what we won football games, but we couldn't read no books. I'm just kidding. We can read.
Yeah. About 5 of us. But yeah, if you really want to teach them, then they can't just go to school. They got to get there and you got to give them some tools to learn. Like you really got to sit them down and go through stuff. And sure, you can tell them all day, but they got to be able to go home and do what too? You give them homework for what? Go home and study to supplement everything they got going on. So we give so much more attention and time to worldly knowledge. And we understand why we need it, but when it comes to the things of God, we just be like, "Oh, well, I'm saved. That's it. I'm good." Like, no, sir. The apostles and everybody else, they spent time with the Word, and that's what we got to do. The 2 Timothy says you got to study to show thyself approved, a workman not needed to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So I don't have to be ashamed of what I know and things I do because I have studied. I know what the Bible says, especially in a time now where so many of our principles are being challenged. Men becoming women or women becoming men and all this other stuff. And you just like, if you don't have that knowledge, you'll fall prey to it. You'll be like, well, they were born that way. That ain't what the Bible say.
Yeah, we have a problem in the South with religion, Christianity in particular, being so ingrained in our culture and the way we do things and really just part of our routine that we have fallen into a place of it just being a formality.
Right.
And it just being a part of the culture and maybe not always taking to the extent that you're referring to in the way of teaching and learning and understanding. And I attribute much of my lack of knowledge in Christianity, particularly the Methodist denomination, to that component of our culture. It just being a place, to your point, that we would go congregate on Sunday mornings. For many people, it's a social setting. It's a social event. They just want other people to see them darken the doors of that church. And really what goes on when they're in the church doesn't matter so much as they were seen there. And I think that contributes to a lot of people having, myself included, a jaded view of Christianity, because as I've gotten older, I've come to form the opinion that most people go to church to be seen. And basically that I think a lot of the people that participate in Christianity in our culture are, I don't want to say all of them are fake, but many of them are not all the way in.
Right.
The belief is not as sincere as they would like you to believe.
Yeah, it's more of the fear of missing out. It does got a lot of people.
Everybody else does it.
Yeah, I don't want to, people to be I don't want to be highlighted for not going to church. So I'm just gonna go to church so people won't yell at me. So I'll be cool.
Get asked questions. Why ain't you there? Oh, he must be off the beaten path because he ain't at church. All the things that come with that, the speculation and the suspicion is like, well, he ain't been to church in 2 years. Like, maybe I've been minding my own damn business.
Or I went to another church.
True.
So I always tell people that too. Like I won't stick at the church for too long if it's not teaching me something. Because like I said, it's a real war. We're fighting a real spiritual war out here.
Who's winning?
God's already won. That's the thing. God's already won. But if we don't walk in victory, then we're always gonna be victims. It's something that you gotta walk in. We gotta walk in our authority. If we're not walking into it, and in order to walk into it, you gotta understand what you walking in. If you don't know that you most powerful person, just like the prison thing, right? I forget the name of it, but I remember that story about the guy was in prison, but the door is unlocked, but he never checked the door because he just assumed since he was in prison it was locked. The whole time he was trying to figure out how to get out. All he had to do was press the door. That's how I feel like when it comes to Christianity and Christians. It's like we got the victory, we got the power, but we so focused on everything else around us that we don't even attempt to do that. And that's because of lack of knowledge, So that's why we got to get better in what we know. And that's why I would encourage people. That's the whole point of the Bible trivia is like, did you know? And then when you don't know, you're like, man, I didn't know that. I need to go back and study. Right, because you need to study. And not saying that you need these things for eternal salvation. Once again, that's not what I'm saying. But if you're going to live here, because he still wants you to bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. In order to bring that, you got to understand where you stand and what powers you got.
What do you think is required for eternal salvation in the way of works and or faith?
Well, Jesus said, the only work that is to believe on the one that he sent. That's what Jesus said himself. Because they asked him, okay, Lord, what works do we got to do then? He said, the only work that needs you to do is to believe on the Son that was sent.
So if I were to say right now with all of my heart that I believe in Jesus Christ, and then I die 5 seconds later, I'm straight.
You're going to heaven.
Well, that's a cheap way to go about things, isn't it? Like,
Is it?
I mean,
Because the only person you saved was yourself. Would you be cool with that?
so works don't matter.
Oh, I didn't say works didn't matter. I'm saying it doesn't matter towards your salvation.
It doesn't matter toward your salvation,
Yeah.
right.
Works matter for those that are not.
And
saved.
there are some beliefs within the Christian community that hold works in very high regard in the way of attaining salvation.
And that's the problem. People thinking you can work out your salvation, and no, you can't. You can work through your salvation, but you can't work it out. Jesus did that. If you can work it out, why did Jesus come? Why did Jesus die?
Right. So if you had to place your version of Christianity in a denominational sense, what would it align most closely with?
Man, I couldn't tell you.
Because I'm assuming you're non-denominational.
Yeah, I would say I've been non-denominational for a while, and not that I couldn't be part of any church, but when you start putting, like I said, man-made religion in front of stuff and then practices that would get you away from the Word of God, I would say I'm apostolic in my faith. That I just whatever the apostles of them when they was doing and how they would lead and how they worship and stuff like that. It's kind of like what I want to kind of follow out the image, right? So if you're listening to this, you know what I'm saying, to be saved, all you got to do is what? Confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead and you shall be saved. That was it. It didn't say you had to go to work and do anything. That was the only requirement to be saved and be sent to heaven. And that's the simple part. The hard part is now, because you are a Christian, now you're finna get attacked from an enemy. Mm-hmm. Now you got a whole nother enemy that you didn't know about, Satan. And he got a lot of people on his side. Third of heaven, right? That's what it said. Said when the dragon fell, third of heaven went with it. So you got third of heaven coming down here and fighting against you too. So if you don't get out here and actually work out stuff, like work through your faith, because when it talks about faith without works is dead, they're not saying that your faith is dead. What he was trying to say there was, it doesn't produce fruit in other people if they can't see my faith in my works. If I say I believe a certain thing and I do the complete opposite or nothing to show you I believe in that, what does that do for you? Nothing.
The interesting thing about that is the Bible is that the way you've interpreted it is totally different than the way other people interpret it. There are people who think the reverse of you. Mm-hmm. And so who's right and who determines that?
Well, I would say this. That's why I always tell people the most important thing is accepting Christ into your life, right? That's the most important thing. That's going to get you good. Now, if down the line, if we're talking works and who doesn't do works and et cetera, if you want to line our lives up and kind of do a relay or whatever, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Our lives may be different on earth. Because I'll put it like this. If you're out here trying to work for salvation, you know what I'm saying? Then you're telling God that you're not enough. Mm-hmm. That Jesus will lay it was not enough. But that's only going to make you work hard on earth when you don't have to. When you accept Christ, you enter into his rest. He rested. That's what we were meant to do. He did all the works. But because we rested, we go out and obey his commandments and keep his commandments because we love what he did. Mm-hmm. It's more of a gratitude than a command, right? So I'm grateful for what he did for me, for doing the things that were impossible for me to do no matter how much I try. So I'm going to go out and show my gratitude by being thankful. And how are you thankful? Keeping those commandments. And
where did you first find a source of Christianity and Christian teaching that you trusted was closest to what really happened?
I won't say source, but sources. You know, as they say, if you start listening to some people and you start getting a consensus, you kind of be like, okay.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
One of the people I listened to recently is Lewis Scott. Lewis Scott is pretty big on Facebook. I think he has like 1.1 million followers, but he's more of on the apologetic side. And when I first started really getting into my faith and because I wanted an answer for my faith, I listened to people like, man, I can't think of his name right now.
Jimmy Swaggart.
Maybe if I want to learn how to snipe. But it was Frank Turk, Ravi Zacharias, all people that I thought were really great people when it came to defending the faith and things like that. They were able to present information in ways I never thought. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, you start listening to Word of Faith preachers. Like back home, I was at Restoration Ministries in Augusta, Georgia, under the tutelage of Michael Mitchell, Dr. Michael Mitchell, who really taught me about faith. And then when you start understanding faith and the principles of faith, I mean, it's almost like the more you listen, the more you recognize the good, the more you start to recognize the bad, and I learned that in the military too. It's like we spend all this time telling people what they shouldn't do with no time telling them what they ought to do. Mm-hmm. And when you don't tell them what is expected and they ought to do, then they don't know what to do when they're not doing the things So if you got to give them the grounds to make the right decision. And when you know what to do, you don't do the things you shouldn't do. So I just started learning those principles, started studying more of my own Bible, and just listening around. And you start getting a consensus like, man, you know what? That's right. Because like I said, if Jesus died, and that's what he said, he died for past, present, and future sins. And you go back in his own words, he said, these are the works that you must do. Believe on the one that he's telling you. These are the works. And they was asking as in works, as in what we do today. But he told them blatantly right there. But when you realize, man doesn't like that so much because, like you just said, if you accepted Christ now and die 5 minutes later, you went to heaven. They don't like that idea. They don't like the idea that someone can just accept Christ and go to heaven after they spend a whole life being a freaking terrorist, and then they've been spending their whole life being a saint, and then they get to be in the same place. They don't like that idea. So they're not going to be okay with that idea. So they're going to find every other reason to not be okay with that idea. But that's why Jesus did that, because he didn't want no one to boast in what they did. He didn't want them to boast in their own works. Because now they can sit back and be judgmental of that Christian. I done this, I done that, and you ain't done nothing. Now they boasting in their own works. He said no one should boast, So that's why it's all about that. And that's why I encourage you.
I found this on the web for East.
What up, Siri?
Check it out.
Sorry, Siri.
Siri's husband. Well, Siri probably doesn't have a husband. Siri's probably trans or gay or something like that.
Non-binary.
Non-binary. There you go.
Yeah, non-binary. Because it's binary code, right? But anyway, yeah, so when you think about it from that perspective, man, you got a lot of people pushing it, but also it just doesn't line up with what Jesus said, man, and what he did.
Yeah, Siri just interrupted our conversation there, and actually it is a dude. I noticed that the other day. Sometimes my computer, for those of y'all listening, not watching, I have an iMac in this room, and for some reason or another, I can be in whatever part of the house and be talking, or somebody can be talking, and homeboy will think we're talking to him, and he'll be wanting us to search for something sometimes. He tells us he can't hear. I can't hear you. I didn't get that.
It's like it wasn't for you, man.
Exactly. That's what I tell him every time. I'm like, bro, ain't nobody talking to you. But he keeps on coming back. That has been something, just religion in general, that has piqued my interest. And not really the religions themselves, but how people frame whatever religion it is that they believe in their mind, how they get to the point of believing in that religion. That just interests me.
Yeah.
What intrigues people enough to take it to the level of believing something in the way devout Christians do. I'm not saying that there's anything in the world wrong with it. It's just interesting to me how people can justify in their minds to believe in something wholeheartedly, on the same level wholeheartedly, but it be a totally different religion. For example, as devout as you are in your Christian walk and your Christian faith, there are people just as devout in the Muslim walk and the Muslim faith. And now, obviously, I think there are many negative connotations associated with Islam, as I believe that they should be. I think there is concern, but there are very peaceful and nice, kind people of Muslim faith. But it's just interesting how we all find whatever gives us the warm and fuzzies on the inside, and to justify our existence or justify where it is we believe, what it is we believe we need to do right to, I guess, impact the world in the most positive manner.
Yeah. That's why I told people in the world, it don't matter as much as in the eternal.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm pretty sure there's some very nice atheists out there that don't believe in God at all, that they believe God doesn't exist. Not that they just don't believe in one. So it's like there's some very nice people out there. Reason being is because God wrote the law on our hearts. So even if you don't believe, you're gonna have those same kind of beliefs at your core because He's written on our hearts. It takes a lot to have those erased and to be ignored, right? But He's written on our hearts. And so my thing is, I'm worried about the eternal. Sure, I'm not gonna be here. I'm gonna be here for a short time, not a long time. Shout out to Drake. But I'm here to make sure that I'm set up for when I'm no longer here. So that's the difference, and that's where you get the difference between the religions and stuff like that. Is what's gonna happen in the afterlife. And to me, like I said, from what I've seen, what I researched, Muhammad died, never came back. Everybody else that believe in some type of God died. Only person I know that's still alive today is Jesus. When you really get to it, He died and came back to life. So if I'm gonna listen to somebody that's doing something, I'm gonna listen to the one that actually did something that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Did He really die and come back? Did He really walk on water? Did the bush really burn? Did the sea really part? Did those things actually happen, or are they just metaphors?
I would say, looking through history and everything else, people are discovering stuff. They discovered that at the bottom of the Red Sea, you can kind of see stuff like that from the chariots and stuff and the Roman armies and stuff like that at the bottom of the Red Sea. What else? Another spot where the Noah's Ark, where it's decided and stuff like that, and where he did the burnt offerings and those landscapes over there are remnants of that happening. So, which is important for us to go out and actually explore the world, because you can see these things in places where it took place. And there are some, the Dead Sea Scrolls and everything else that went down, and people talking about it. Jesus was so well spoken of that even people like Pilate and other, non-religious people talked about Jesus.
Is it possible that like Jesus was just so well loved, like Dolly Parton times infinity, that He just became this immortal figure who was really once a human, and He was just really, really famous and really, really loved at that time, and He's just lived on forever?
I would say that could be a possibility, but it's not. And the reason why it's not a possibility, because you got to think about during that time, they was worshiping other gods. This isn't somebody that they just decided to, oh man, I really like this guy, so I'm gonna follow him. No, they was worshiping other gods like Baal and everybody else. So for them to not only, like you said, you're talking to people.
They were worshiping other gods?
Gods.
Were they, is this when Jesus was in human form?
Yes.
Okay, so there were other people who were like Jesus, human. Like
No.
God, not like Him, but like in the flesh.
No.
People were worshiping.
No. Like golden calves and stuff like that.
Like the Greeks, their gods were not in human form.
Yeah, not in human form.
Were they?
No.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. They were worshiping other gods. But this was the only one that, actually walked with us and that we got to see. So like you got people that was converting, like to me, the Roman centurion.
Some
Cornelius,
people got to see.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, even the evidence for it is overwhelming. I mean, no other book has went through with a fine-tooth comb than the Bible. It's the reason why it's the most sold book ever in the world, and it's the reason why it's been long for as long as it's been. So it's funny that we'll question if Jesus walked on water, but we'll believe whatever happened from, let's say somebody that any other historical book that maybe got one reference and we'll believe it. Mm-hmm. But there's so many references to Jesus doing stuff in multiple authors and multiple books, and then we in multiple witnesses, and we still sit here and question things. It's like, sure, we can question it, but at the same time, there's witnesses there. Like we believe everything else when it comes to it. Why can't we believe He walked on water?
It's just like anything else. Religion gets hijacked, and people find a way to, whether it be profit or grow a following, gain control. They'll utilize it as a tool to, like someone, I'm not saying Jimmy Swaggart did this intentionally, but Jimmy Swaggart's made a shit ton of money spreading what he calls the gospel. You know, people find those little niches and those pockets to fall into, whether it be from a media standpoint, whether it be from a political standpoint, and they'll use religion as a vehicle. Like I think it could be argued that the Klan did that with Christianity. Black Panthers did that with Islam to a certain extent. That's the point I'm trying to get across. Is there's so much man-made alteration and twisting that goes on when it comes to religion. It can become difficult for someone to find a source that is credible, or what they believe to be credible, because just like anything else with humans, everybody's got their own agenda, and everybody's trying to figure out how to navigate the situation and manipulate whatever it is for their personal gain or for their team's gain.
Absolutely.
So we have to be careful of that when we're out, whether it be politics, whether it be religion, whatever type of information it is, history. We have to be careful about where we